Dogs 24/7 insider Ben Wolk, the man when it comes to Georgia Bulldogs recruiting. Hey, this might be a softball. Who are you excited to see over the next couple of days?
Well, I think I probably am in agreement with Andrew Ivins on this one. I want to see Jared Curtis throw in some kind of setting like this for the first time in a long time. You know, I believe greatly in the talent level that Jared Curtis has. I just want to see it in a setting like this. I've seen him tossing it around a little bit with Sedarian Morgan out here already. I'm excited to see those two connect at times over the weekend.
How excited are the guys in Athens about Jared Curtis? Obviously, he was back and forth. He commits early, then he backs away. Then there's a lot of buzz about Oregon, then he recommits. I know Mom's happy, and everybody around him's fired up about it, but how excited are Kirby Smart and the guys in Athens?
Well, all you have to do is look at how they recruited the quarterback position this cycle to be able to figure out how strongly they felt about Jared Curtis. I mean, he committed to them a year and a half ago, decommits during the football season, and Georgia never wavered. They had some contingency plans at quarterback just in case, but Jared Curtis was always going to be the number one target for them at the quarterback position. I think Georgia took some risks in how they recruited him because if Jared Curtis commits to Oregon, I don't know that Georgia has a clear-cut solution at the position in the 2026 class, and they really had to hit this cycle. I think they see him as a high upside future face of the program in Athens, and I think it was critical for them to bring him in as early as they did in the cycle.
Top 247 running back Jae Lamar just committed. Georgia over Miami. I'm kind of curious because I know there was a lot of chatter, a lot of buzz. In your opinion, how close was this? Because there was a lot of buzz that it was like a last-second decision. How good did you feel about Georgia the whole time?
I felt pretty good about Georgia the whole time. I mean, I think these guys are impressionable. They get on some of these visits. I'm sure that he said a lot of the right things when he was down on his Miami visit, and I'm sure he had an awesome time in Coral Gables. I put my crystal ball pick in February for Jae Lamar, and I felt as confident in that pick as pretty much any other one that I've placed this cycle. I think that you look at who Georgia brought in on official visits in June. 4 running backs: Derek Cooper, Savion Hyder, Xavier Crowell, and Jae Lamar. Those are the only 4 running backs that they hosted on officials. I don't think they felt they could miss on the in-state running back. I think Jae Lamar was as critical as any other player at any position in this class for Georgia, and I don't think that there was any scenario that Georgia was going to let him leave the state.
Ben, I think if you poll social media, a fan base that's used to a ton of success, they're kind of questioning what's going on there in Athens from a recruiting standpoint. And obviously, it's a changing landscape. I think Georgia, with the rev share and the name, image, and likeness, they've been hit a little bit harder than some of these programs. So you assess Georgia right now. I mean, you look up, it's a top 10 recruiting class. We'll see. I know there's been some commitments. You know, how do you think Georgia's doing in attacking this new era of college football?
Well, if we're just talking about this week, it's been a pretty good week for Georgia. I feel like I've been writing commitment stories after commitment stories all week long, but I think you're right. Like, when you look at the landscape as a whole, Georgia, like everyone else, is figuring out how do you navigate this new world. I think that Georgia is approaching the revenue share era the way that it was intended, and I think that they are approaching the salary cap world like NFL teams would. I think that there's positional value. I think that they understand they're having to make certain evaluations down their board at certain positions to be able to build depth. Like you said, I don't think Georgia having top 5 recruiting classes is going anywhere. I just think the way that they have to construct the class sometimes might be a little bit more creative than it was in the past, because you can't just go land every single 5-star that you want like they were able to early in the Kirby Smart era.
Well, they do have a 5-star, obviously, in Jared Curtis, but, you know, aside from that, who are the other guys in this class that you think are going to be the household names that Georgia fans need to be just as equally excited about?
Well, one that happened earlier this week that I think was an important add was Kamari Brooks, outside linebacker from North Oconee High School. Georgia only was planning to take one outside linebacker in the 2026 cycle. They established Kamari Brooks as the guy that they wanted to add pretty early on. After a state championship game against Marist earlier, or I guess at the end of last year, they saw what he did. They said, this is the guy that can set the edge for us. This is the guy that can rush the passer. I don't even think he's scratching the surface in terms of what his skill set is as a pass rusher, but someone that is going to be a future leader in Athens. And I think when Georgia's only going to plan on signing one guy at your position and you're the guy that Georgia wants, it says a lot that they were able to lock him down.
I want to ask you about somebody that was right behind us a second ago, decked out in Texas Longhorn gear, head to toe. Derek Cooper, top 247 running back, once committed, I think,
Yeah,
here
he was committed
1
for
year
like
ago for like
8 hours.
Yeah, it didn't sit well with everybody in the Cooper family. When you see somebody decked out in gear like that, do you look at it like, all right, no shot Texas is going to get that kid? Or do you think it's like, maybe that's his leader? Like, how do you look at stuff like that? Because we saw a couple guys, we had like Texas wristbands, things like that. How do you look at all
Can I
that?
give my take? I think they go on the official visit and get free gear, and that's what they're wearing.
Yeah, I'd be rocking the Texas stuff too, probably. But I actually just asked him while I was standing over there, like, how should I read into this? And of course, he didn't give me anything. I have no idea. But I mean, look, I of course am going to read it as a smoke screen. But what do I know?
Here's my question for you, Ben. Obviously, you said productive few weeks for you, all right? A lot of time on the laptop, a lot of screen time. Who's the must-get recruit for Georgia? And you can't say they got to hold on to Jared Curtis, right? Who is the guy they got to get in this class?
They do.
I think at this point it's probably 5-star linebacker Tyler Atkinson. He's actually, I just saw him down here. He's not participating this week, so I don't know exactly what all he has in store this week. But look, Georgia just took Shadarius Tootle. They flipped him from Auburn. Georgia's going to want to take at least 2 linebackers in this class. And when you look at who they have left, I mean, it's Tyler Atkinson, it's Nick Abrams, it's Tamarian Watkins, it's Isaiah Williams. I don't necessarily know how I feel where Georgia stands with those other 3 names that I just mentioned. So Georgia has prioritized Tyler Atkinson from the very beginning of his recruitment. I think 8th grade going into 9th grade at Grayson, he was taking visits over to Georgia. And so I don't think Georgia wants to see another 5-star slip out of the state a la Justice Terry. And I know that some people got worried when Tyler Atkinson took that official visit to Texas a couple of weeks ago, or about a week ago now. But look, I don't count out Glenn Schumann when it comes to linebacker recruitment. I think that I would favor Georgia at this point in time when it comes to Tyler Atkinson, and I just think that that's one that Georgia feels like it needs to find a way to sign.
Follow up, I'm putting you on the hot seat here. Who is the biggest thorn in Georgia's side right now on the recruiting trail?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the gut reaction right now would be Miami because of what happened with Jackson Cantwell's recruitment. That was a tackle that Georgia felt like it was a shoo-in to be able to get, probably in old school recruiting worlds. I don't necessarily know that I feel that Miami is the biggest thorn in Georgia's side, because when you look up at certain, like, Alabama has Jordan Edmonds committed in the class. I think Jordan Edmonds is a cornerback that Georgia would have loved to keep in the state of Georgia. So I still look at the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Texases. I think that those are the programs that, and potentially Clemson. I think those are the programs that I think Georgia gets the most worried about when they're involved. Yes, Miami has stolen some recruits away from Georgia at times, but I think that it is the national championship staple programs that tend to be the biggest problems for Georgia right now in recruiting.
Dogs 24/7 insider Ben Wolk, one of the best in the business. Tremendous follow on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. You kill it, man. Thanks for being here, bud.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right.